I'm truly delighted to be here at the Lenovo Tech World India edition and speaking about the promise for the next decade with reference to India. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look around the last 2.5 decades, almost all the innovation in the world that has happened in the world of technology has happened because of big tech. And the big tech is largely comprised of Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon in the United States, and in the case of China, it's largely comprised of Tencent and Alibaba. And this innovation from cloud computing to AI to e-commerce, vast amount of digital transformation that has happened is largely because the big tech had access to citizens' data. And citizens' data has been used very effectively to do a lot of huge amount of innovation, including on cloud and many other areas of growth. To my mind, that era of big tech is now going to end because of a huge concern of privacy and because of competition. So you have in Europe the GDPR model, which has largely focused on privacy, but that has impacted innovation in many ways, and actually from Europe, not much technological innovation has happened during the last 2 decades. In sharp contrast to what the United States and what Europe has done, India took a very different and an unparalleled approach, and that was that it created public tracks, it created railway tracks, on top of which it allowed private sector to innovate and compete. And therefore, you had the unified payment interface, on top of which PhonePe competes with Google Pay, Paytm compete with WhatsApp, and there are 40 different apps competing. And many of us, like I, for instance, have not used my debit card, credit card. I have not been to an ATM machine. I have not been to a bank for the last 3.5 years. For me, my mobile is my bank. It's a virtual bank on which I use PhonePe to make all my payments and do all my debit, credit. And therefore, India does about 11x more fast payments than what United States and Europe do, and 4x more payments than what China does. But this required us to first create digital identity for every single Indian individual, and that is we created 1.4 billion digital identities in India. And then between 2015 and 2017, we opened up close to 500 million bank accounts. 500 million bank account means that during that period, 55% of the bank accounts opened across the world were opened in India, and every second bank account was opened in India. And then we embedded these bank accounts with both the digital identity, that is the Aadhaar, and the mobile number. And therefore, banks are linked with both your digital identity and your mobile number, and that enables me from my mobile to make a payment to Amar's mobile directly without going through a wallet, and automatic debit credit cards within seconds happen. And therefore, what India has demonstrated is great ability to do this on population scale at low cost, low transaction costs. So during the period 2015 to 2017, when Jio rolled out its mobile telephones, it was able to there access the biometric of citizens and provide almost 200 million Indians mobile connectivity in about 100 days' time. 200 million in 100 days' time But they could do it at this size and scale because the cost of acquisition was of customer was just $1. $1 as compared to $25 before India had built up the Jam Trinity, and about almost $180 to $190 in the western part of the world, in Europe and America. So the cost of acquisition of customers fell rapidly. When I was a young officer in Kerala, my job was to transform the lives of traditional fishermen. And we provided them outboard motors. They could go much further into the sea. We gave them new fishing nets known as the disco nets. And then we gave them new fiberglass crafts. They could go much further into the sea. Their production increased. But fishermen were prone to drinking, and therefore it was important to open their bank accounts and put 50% of their daily earning into the bank account. But opening a bank account was the toughest job. Know your customer was a very tough job. It used to take 7-8 months to go through know your customer for a traditional fisherman. Today we do that in less than a minute. So I've seen this transformational journey from 7-8 months to less than a minute. And that has been the big game changer in India. We could do CoWIN app during the COVID period, and CoWIN app means that we did 2.2 billion vaccination, which was all paperless, totally paperless. And we do the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana as a part of Ayushman Bharat. That is, we have provided insurance to 500 million Indians. It's 500 million Indians means that we've done it to almost twice the population of the United States of America. And we've done it, which is totally cashless, paperless. You can be living in Tamil Nadu and traveling to Bihar, you will take your insurance policy along with you. And we could create the Digi Locker where all your insurance, your driving license, everything is actually stored in the Digi Locker. And during the COVID period, we created large-scale education, digital public infrastructure called Diksha and Swayam, which enabled Indians to learn education through their mobiles and iPads across India on a large scale. Similarly, we've used fast tags on a very large scale across all our highways and for parking and many other things. All this is digital. All this is digital on a very large scale. And therefore, what India has demonstrated in the last 7 years is its huge ability to do technological innovations which have ensured that we are able to use private sector to bring in a huge amount of innovation on top of the public infrastructure. And this has led to many private sector competing and innovating. And that has really driven efficiency in government in a very big way and across the private sector. So during the COVID period, we could provide and assist 500 million Indians and put money straight into their bank accounts. We did not come out with large packages like United States or Europe did, and which are causing huge problems today. All this problem of Silicon Valley Bank, etc., which you are facing is a consequence of the large packages that were driven because of the tightening of the economy now. And therefore, India did not do that, but it ensured that people living below the poverty line get money directly into their bank account. In 600 schemes of the government, we put money straight into the bank accounts without any leakages, and therefore, when I was a young officer, one of our prime ministers said that only 15 paisa reaches the poor person. 85% is a leakage. Today we put money straight, not a single paisa of leakage. So the extent of productive efficiency through the use of digital technology has been enormous in the case of India. It's been massive. Now, important thing is that if you look around the world, almost 4 billion people do not have a digital identity. 2.5 billion people do not have a bank account. About 133 countries do not have a fast payment mechanism. So if you want to transform the lives of citizens in the global south, and make a difference to their life through technology, you need to create identities, you need to create bank accounts, you need to embed them, and you need to ensure that you're able to do fast payments, you're able to do education, health, literacy through technology. That is the way forward. So one of the key things that has happened in India as a consequence of this is that we have an internet user every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds in India, we have an internet user, and this will keep rising because in India there are 1 billion people who are below the age of 35, and India's demographics right till 2070, our average age will be 29. It will be a very young population. It will be a digitally savvy country. And therefore, the young demographics of India, America is aged, Europe is aged, China is aging, India is getting younger and will remain young till 2070. And therefore, this young population will drive technological growth. And what you will see in the coming period is a huge amount of innovation. When we started the Startup India movement in 2016, there were just 456 startups in India. Today, there are almost 98,000 startups, almost 28,000 startups in deep tech, and we have over 110 unicorns. We've been able to attract over 350 billion into the startup movement through PE and venture capital funds, because these startups are able to disrupt in a very big way. So as a consequence, if you look at it, what has happened in India? Because we built up the Jam Trinity, you had a number of startups like PhonePe, Google Pay, WhatsApp, Paytm, many others, all of them doing digital payments. But the next step for many of our startups like Lending Cart, Pine Labs, MobiQuick, all young entrepreneurs who are all unicorns today, what did they do? They looked at the digital payment story and the credit worthiness and started giving credit. And this was all paperless, cashless credit, digital credit. And then you had another set of young entrepreneurs who started looking at the digital payment story and then started doing wealth management. So you had Zerodha, Grow, Upstock, all these companies, and Zerodha today controls 28% of the stock market in India, all doing wealth management, all digitally, all digital. And therefore, this market grew to 2 tiers, 3 tiers, and all over. And then you had another set of young entrepreneurs who started doing end-to-end insurance. 5 years, 6 years back when we were buying insurance policy, I was buying an insurance policy. It used to take months to get an insurance policy through LIC. Digit and Acco give you an insurance policy in less than 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And therefore, what you've seen is identity, bank accounts, linking it up with bank accounts, credit, wealth management, insurance. All this has seen a massive revolution in India because of technological innovation in India. And therefore, what India has done is to create vast amount of data sets. And these data sets are really the key to doing a huge amount of innovation through artificial intelligence and machine learning. And therefore, what many of these people, many of these startups are doing are finding solution to the challenges of India. But when you find a solution to the challenges of India, to the 1.4 billion people of India, using artificial intelligence and machine learning, you're not finding a solution to the 1.4 billion people of India. You're finding a solution for the 4.5 billion people of the world who are moving from poverty to middle class all across the world. And therefore, your market is not 1.4 billion people of India, but the 5 billion people of the world who will move from poverty to middle class. And that is the market which is looking for solutions to population scale at low cost. And that is the market for Indian young entrepreneurs, the tech entrepreneurs of India. And all these young entrepreneurs, as they drive this, would require a huge amount of assistance in terms of policy framework, which the government has done. But they would also require assistance in terms of the softer elements of the innovation, etc., will require a harder element, much of which was mentioned by which Lenovo does in terms of storage, in terms of AI, many other areas. And therefore, this market will continue to grow and expand and boom in India in the coming years. Amma also talked about going green. So I'm a great believer that in India, we'll add value if we go digital, if we go green. If you are not going digital, you will not survive. None of you will survive if you don't go digital. There's no way. An MSME will not survive, a small entrepreneur will not survive, a Kirana store will not survive unless he's not gone digital fully. And also important that all of us become an integrated part of the global value chain, because the world is globalized. And we have to become highly productively efficient, and that can only happen if we go digital. But the other big thing is that, the world, as we move forward, the earth may survive, but we as human beings will go extinct if we do not go net zero by 2050. And therefore, it's incumbent upon all of us. Now, in India, we are not responsible for carbonizing the world. The world has been carbonized by the developed world. Our per capita consumption of carbon space in India is very limited. It's only 1.5%, whereas on a per capita basis, we are entitled to about 18.5%. Out of the total carbon space available of 2,800 gigatons at 1.5 degrees centigrade, 2,400 of it has already been occupied by the developed world. We occupy very minimal space of 52 gigatons. But irrespective of that, India must become the first country in the world to industrialize without carbonizing the world, because you will be able to grow, prosper, become sustainable, attract value, attract capital only if you go green. And therefore, India became the first country in the world to achieve its NDC targets, the nationally determined targets, which we had committed to in Paris 9 years ahead of schedule. 9 years ahead of schedule. We do about 172 gigawatts of renewable power. And our next vision is to use renewable to crack water and produce green hydrogen. Because even if you do 100% electricity, you will do only 20% of your energy. 100% renewable is 20% of your energy. The balance 80% is all hard to abate sectors. Refinery, it is steel, cement, it is long distance transport, fertilizer. All these need to be decarbonized. We import 200 billion worth of fossil fuel. What the Prime Minister said is that by 2047, India will be fossil independent from fossil fuel import. And therefore, India is climatically blessed. It has top-class entrepreneurship. It has the possibility of being the lowest cost producer of green hydrogen, the lowest cost exporter of green hydrogen, the biggest manufacturer of electrolyzer, and therefore there's a huge, huge opportunity for India to decarbonize all its manufacturing and become the biggest champion of going green. And this would require us to get into sunrise areas of sector, become the biggest manufacturer of two-wheelers, three-wheelers, electric vehicles, and go completely 100% green in the next 5 years on two-wheelers, three-wheelers, push for green hydrogen in long-distance transport, go for storage, go for pump storage, and get into completely new sunrise areas of growth, because that's where the real value will come for India in the coming years. So I'm a great believer that going digital, going green is the way forward for India becoming a $10 trillion economy. And if India has to grow and expand in a very big way, India needs to grow at high rates of 8 to 9% per annum, year after year, year after year. And this is important. This is important because as we grow and expand, it's very important for us to raise our per capita income. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. We are on track to be the 3rd largest economy in the world. By 2030, we'll be the 3rd largest economy. But we must raise the per capita income of our people. And per capita income, if you grow at 7%, by 2050, 2047, our per capita income of our people will be about $14,500. If you grow at 8%, it'll be $18,000. If you grow at 9%, it'll be $22,000. But if you grow at 10%, it'll be $31,000. The compounding power of growth is very enormous. And therefore, India must have the ambition to use digital technology, drive growth in an accelerated manner, go green in a very accelerated manner, and improve the lives of its citizens. It should become a $10 trillion economy, but it should also increase the per capita income through the use of technology and by going green. And that is the future for India. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm truly delighted to be here, and I wish both Mint, which has invited me, and Lenovo, which has not invited me, all the very best and all success. Thank you. Thank you.